All right, why don't you start it this time?
Thank you for coming back.
No.
This is
No.
On the Fence podcast with
No.
Eden and Seven.
This is what happens when Eden starts the podcast.
What's wrong with
you gotta be energized. You know, gotta be like, move that for a second.
No, you don't.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Seven Crawford back again.
Some people listen to podcasts to like chill out, not to hear someone's
right.
loud, peppy voice in their ear screaming at them.
This isn't a podcast anymore. This is an ASMR show.
Gross. Stop. Okay. Anyways.
Eating this brittle. Finishing it up. I'm done though. It's so good.
Topics for today.
Whoa, we gotta introduce ourselves.
Oh, I'm Eden.
I'm Seven. That's my name. Yes. Believe it. Or not. I don't care.
Turn off
I gotta wait.
your notifications.
Sorry, guys. I gotta turn down the volume on here. All right. And we're back. Okay. Topics for the day. Why don't you start that?
Well, I think we should come up with a theme for a podcast. Before we keep on making podcasts, I think we should come up with a theme.
Well, the theme we can figure out on the way. But the topic for
I
today
think we should come up with a theme now.
is marathons, right?
Yeah.
In particular, marathon in 2022, May.
The most.
Is that in May?
Yeah, the infamous. The thing that made us really infamous. I mean, it didn't really. It actually did really affect a lot of what happened afterwards, and a lot of my actions and a lot of our family's actions.
Yeah. So let me just start off by saying January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. It's been 6 months. 6 months ago, we ran. Are you
acting like a teenager with your hood on?
What do you mean? It's cold in here, guys. It's still cold in here. 6 months ago, our whole family ran a marathon. There was 8 of us, including a 6-year-old boy who goes by the name of Rainier. Rainier, right there. And and a marathon is 26.2 miles, and there was a lot of backlash on Rainier being 6 years old running 26.2 miles, which doesn't really make sense because we've been doing this marathon for almost 10 years. My first marathon was when I was 8 years old, and I ran it with my dad. And then eventually Memory ran it when she was 7. And then Falia ran it when she was 6. So a 6-year-old has run the marathon, who was in our family before. It might have just been how much bigger our channel was this time. Anyways, we ran it. And then when we uploaded our stuff to social media on Instagram, on the Fight for Together Instagram account, it just like blew up and got a lot of hate and got a lot of love and just like mostly hate though. And we got like CPS called on us a couple times, which was, has happened before, but it's still just like, oh, wow, shit, like could get taken away from our parents.
Yeah.
So it's, it's pretty rattling, I guess.
The scariest thing to me was that people were kind of using every single platform that they could to get to us. So it was over Instagram. It was like all of us kids have individual Instagram, and not all of us, but like the older 4 do. And then my parents, and then through email, through Facebook, we were getting messages,
YouTube comments, dislikes,
flooding from everywhere,
Instagram
from people.
Comments.
Yeah,
DMs.
saying like I got stuff saying like, oh, I'm so sorry that your parents treat you that way.
I got the most random shit on my messages on Instagram, like a bunch, and like just people are just like, just the most random stuff where I'm like, what is this even like? What is this for? Is this for me? Like for what? Like
yeah.
And it's just like not even about me. It's about their feelings, and it's like it's something that I've never dealt with before, like that much.
To that extent.
Publicity?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It was pretty scary. It was pretty it made me really angry because we couldn't really, at least I didn't feel like I could really respond, at least, especially in the moment. Like after several weeks, I was like, okay, you know, like I'm sick of not saying anything. But the second that you start to say something, they would be like, oh, you're just brainwashed. So they would discount what you were saying.
Which is like so...
And still call you the victim. And it was like, then who better to speak on this situation than like someone who has been through what they're accusing my parents of putting my brother through. It's like...
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, there's no reasoning with these people. They're just like kind of driven to like either tear you down or, you know, some of them, obviously we got a lot of positivity too. Like, wow, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I didn't know this was possible. And it was like really inspiring to a lot of people. I think a really big shield that we had as a family was like, we felt like we had to get a message out, which was our YouTube video, which is like an hour-long documentary.
Marathon Boy?
Yeah, it's called Marathon Boy. It's out now. It's been out for a little bit. It was actually a really awesome release. We watched it on a full-screen movie theater.
With like all of our friends.
Yeah.
It was actually really cool to see who showed up, and like after getting so much hate, then we get to like have all the people who care about us in one room to like watch the thing that like had gotten so much hate.
Yeah, and there was a ton of people that we didn't know that were just watching the movie too.
Yeah, there were like, a couple of strangers, which was cool.
Yeah, it was just super cool because there's like 150 seats, and then, you know, probably like 100 people came or something like that.
100?
Yeah.
I feel like it was like 50.
50 to 100, I guess.
It was a big room and it wasn't that full.
Yeah, well.
But that's not what matters. It's like, I don't know.
That's why I said 50, about 50 people came. So I wrote down a lot of questions for that topic. The first one is, I guess I'm asking Eden and myself this. How was that marathon compared to the previous and all the other marathons?
It was like, the only difference I can think of is that...
how many marathons have you run?
Shoot. 8.
8, really?
I think so.
So that must mean I've done 10, right? Because I did...
No, because I did one without you.
Oh, you did one without me, yeah. You have a lot of races coming up, too, and you've been running a lot, right?
Yeah,
I've been slacking, too, but that's okay. You ran 100 miles one time?
Yeah, that was actually this year. And that was kind of a result of like, I was like, okay, we're getting all this hate online for running.
And you just want to like prove these people wrong?
I couldn't say anything, so I was like, I'm just going to go on a run. And I had wanted to try 100 miles for a long time in 24 hours. And so I don't really know how I did it, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pretty miserable.
How did you get into running?
I mean, I think it started with like my dad would take one of us kids to work, and he worked like 3 miles away, so we would run to work. And it was like where we live is really cool because there's a ton of like bridges, and there's like a pedestrian bridge that is just for people to
Purple People Bridge.
Yeah, to run, walk, or bike across. And a lot of the city is like that, where there's a lot of cool routes that you can run, like along the river too.
Yeah, really endorses pedestrians using their toes to walk and wheels to bike, and cars. You know, cars are obviously always will be like a necessity, and like, you know, but I think if you like can run, then might as well. Yeah,
well, we started doing that. Then my dad did a marathon with 7 when he was 8, and 7's younger than me, so I was like, man, if he can do that, like, I should be able to do that too.
And that's where you would be greatly mistaken.
Apparently not.
That's okay though.
I think the best part about our runs is that it kind of gave us something to make videos about, and now when we watch those old videos, it's like, it's really cringy, it's really fun, it's embarrassing, but it's like, you like look at like your younger self where they're all like with a tiny face, and they're like I remember I watched the first marathon video and I was like, I'm scared that my legs will hurt, and just like, well, no duh. Like now, but I don't know, I was
this last marathon was like in comparison to the other ones, it was just crazy. Like it was just such a walk in the park, like literally. Like I was just like,
Yeah, it was really slow though, which was the most painful part. Was we went slower than ever.
yeah. I didn't train like at all for this last marathon, which was still like no problem. You know, there was like some people that I knew that did it with absolutely no training.
We're not saying don't train.
Yeah,
for
I don't endorse
marathon.
not training. I'm just saying that it's possible, and that like it got to that point where it's just like, I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, you ran a marathon, that's crazy, but it's like 6 hours out of one day, you know.
For us, yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
for almost
just-
anyone, it's just one day. Like Andy, this dude who ran with us, has like never done any running in his life, I don't think, until like he saw Rainier do it, or
Yeah.
Rainier was trying to do it, and then yeah, he got really inspired to do it, so he did it with us. And him doing it, he was only an hour behind us. Him doing it was like really crazy to me, because he's like a really old friend of my parents, and like I like basically like grew up with him. Not like grew up with him, but like he was around when I was little.
Yeah.
And just like from that to running a marathon with him was just like really crazy. So this like this documentary also revolved a lot around him, in the story of just basically the aspect of like almost anyone, you know, can run a marathon, run or walk, you know.
Really just do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
And I like what I've learned to like really appreciate about running, and like what my dad I think likes a lot about it, or like all of us, is like it's just something that all of us can do together, like every single one of us, including Rainier, from Rainier to, you know, the oldest, my dad or whatever. Everyone in between can just like run together, and it's something that we can all like suffer through and do something together to like bond us or bring us closer as a family.
Yeah. I will say about that marathon though, I think people have this idea that like, oh, running a marathon fast is the hardest thing you can do. Running a marathon slow, it trumps the pain. Like, because the fastest I think I ever did was maybe, I think I'm getting this wrong, but I think it was 4.5 hours. And then the longest was the most recent one we did with Rainier, which was like almost double that time. It was like what? It was like 8 hours.
Yeah, around 7 to 8 hours.
That was the longest we had ever, and it was just like, I just wanted to be done, but we wanted to finish together, so we were, you know, waiting for Rainier to catch up, or cheering him on, or running slower, or holding his hand, and that is so much more painful than just like putting in AirPods and running as fast as you can, and like tuning out things, and I don't know, kind of just staring straight ahead. Like, to me, having to be present when you're in a lot of pain is very hard.
Yeah, you almost have to put yourself in Rainier's shoes and be like, wow, this is really hard. And then you have to go at his pace because you want to do it with him. And we all wanted to do this together. And so that was a whole different aspect on this marathon. That was like our perspective, I guess, was just like running with him.
Yeah. Let me get one of my question things.
Yeah, so that was, I guess that question is answered. How was it compared to previous marathons? I'll just answer this one really quickly.
Okay.
Was this last marathon hard for you? Like running it or doing it? Like yes or no?
It wasn't really hard. The after effect was way more hard than the actual marathon itself.
Like the soreness or the mental whatever?
The mental, with like all the publicity, the mental, like it just, I don't know, it just was not easy, you know?
Yeah.
To like I didn't personally experience this, but a lot of like my family members were like having breakdowns, and I was like, what is happening? Like, these people who don't even know us are having this effect on like the people I care about most, and it's like you feel so powerless.
Mm-hmm. Especially like overnight. Yeah, that like happened overnight.
Yeah,
so, like, we weren't nobodies, but you know, we were like.
Well, we were like on the news for like 2 weeks,
yeah,
almost like a month, and then things like finally died down. And man, it was hard to like focus on like day-to-day things when all that was happening. It made me feel like it made me feel like the most important thing was not what was like happening in my actual life. It was like people who didn't know me saying things that they didn't like, saying things about things that they didn't understand or had never personally experienced. So, and that's like a very irrational, and you can't really go anywhere with that when you're like I don't know, it's like when you like a celebrity has a baby, like for some reason everybody knows that the celebrity has the baby, and it's like a big deal even though you don't know them personally. And it was like that, where it was like none of these people know me personally, but they're saying all these things, so like what does that mean, or what do I do with that?
Yeah, like I know you don't know me.
Yeah.
So I should almost like ignore you.
But it's also like fake, like it doesn't actually change your like actual like day or like your hour unless you kind of let it, and it's hard to not let it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not used to dealing with that.
That's kind of the stance I try to take on it, was just like almost ignoring it, but not, ignoring all of it. Like, I think something that my dad told me was like, you can't change these people's mind because their reality is so different from ours. And the reason that he would respond to people was to show other people like the result, or like
not the people who have been talking, like other people who were like looking on over the conversation.
And like the people who are more supporting us, or like people who are on the fence, about if it was a good idea or a bad idea, then they would see that and be like, oh yeah, I can more agree with this, I guess, than the person who is like driven to like tear us down or whatever. So another cool thing was being on the news. So what was like your first reaction to seeing yourself on the news? Like because how I found out was someone texted me, was like, you're on the news, and then sent me a link to
Wait, really?
Apple News. Yeah, and I was like, what? It was crazy, and I clicked it and I like read all of it. I was like, that is me, and that is everyone else, like that's our whole family, like on the news.
Yeah.
And then it just blew up. It was on almost every single popular news channel, like Good Morning America. Was on what else? I forget that dude's name. News 5, and then
Hold on, let me think. I don't remember him either.
Like that older dude with a British accent that interviewed Data.
Yeah. Pierce Morgan?
Yeah,
or
probably.
Morgan Pierce or something like that.
Yeah, and then just a bunch of other ones. ABC, was it on ABC?
NBC
Or NBC.
I think, I don't really
NBC,
remember,
ABC,
to be honest.
some.
Yeah.
So what was like your first reaction to like seeing yourself on the news, or how did you find out we were on the news?
I can't remember. I feel like I found out from my mom or my dad. So it wasn't, I feel like it would have been crazier if one of my friends had sent me it. But like, I didn't really, I think I kind of disassociated from it. I was like, that's not really, the way that they talk about things in the news, it does not sound like, if you know what they're talking about, it does not sound like they're describing something that you actually know. So they say something like, the little boy with his 5 siblings goes on runs and says he likes it, but other people have other opinions. And it's like, nobody talks like that.
Yeah, they have
about
such
us.
a universal perspective on it, where they're like,
yeah,
I'm worried about the kid throwing up and everything, which is like a lot of things that we weren't worried about. We were worried about a lot of other things, but their perspective was like, yeah, it almost didn't seem like they were talking about us in a way. Like it got to that point.
Yeah, it wasn't really us they were talking about. It was like this picture that my dad had posted that had my face in it. It wasn't me.
Yeah. And like what the reason they were interviewing us was, a 6-year-old running the marathon, which is impressive, but it happened before.
Yeah.
The reason we were doing it was not to push Rainier to do it, was for like all of us to do something together as like a family. And that's not why they were
And
broadcasting.
it would have been easier to leave him at home. I can say from like personal experience, he very much is the one pushing to do these things, and my parents are like, yeah, you can do them with us.
Yeah, they're like, you can quit
not
anytime.
gonna hold him back.
And we have a video of him like last year, like, oh, someday can I run a marathon?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you and Dev were running the marathon.
Yeah.
Oh, you have run a marathon by yourself. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna do that one, but then I like tore my calf or something, so it just like really, really hurt, and I decided not to do it.
Yeah, sounds like a good excuse.
And I thought, yeah, everyone else was doing it, but no one else was doing it but you guys. So I was like, I'm just gonna skip out for this.
No, it was honestly, it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. It was compared to running with like my family, where there's all this energy and like then after that there's all these stories of like, oh, remember when that lady gave us Swedish fish and then someone threw them up? Like, that didn't actually happen, but like there's when you're by yourself, it's like, wow, my legs really hurt, and you're like, what am I gonna do about that? Nothing. And then you just, or you do something, and it's like nobody's there to laugh or congratulate or
cheer you on,
cry with you. So it's just like,
so doing a marathon by yourself is harder than doing it with.
No, it's easier.
Oh,
it's
really?
easier. If your goal is to run, it's easier. If your goal is to have an experience that's very memorable, I recommend doing it with more people.
What was your time on?
I think that was my quickest time. I think it was 4.5 hours, but I think it was a little above that. Like, I don't remember, but it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Thanks. Trying really hard.
Don't you have a race coming up really soon too?
No, I was thinking about doing a race last Saturday, but I didn't really want to do it. But there is a race that is 30 minutes away from here that happens in March that I'm really, like, it's a 30-minute drive. Like, I was like, I mean, I would have to make the decision in December, because you have to make it by December 31st, but the actual race is until March, like late March. So it's, I think I'm going to do that, because it's hard to say no to something that's only 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
It's hard to say no to running how many miles? Or is it just a 12-hour ultra? There's 12-hour, 24-hour, and 48-hour, so you get to like pick. That's crazy. Well, I did one ultra marathon with all of us together.
Yeah.
And I only did like 50 miles then or something, which is like.
Yeah, I did 60 that time.
Cool.
I didn't ask. No, it was because I didn't fall asleep. You took like a nap and I didn't. So.
Well, yeah, it was like 3 a.m. I was like, bro, this is crazy. I'm going to sleep. To the point where I was like falling asleep while I was walking. I was like, I'm going to go to sleep.
I think a 48-hour race would be something else. I kind of want to try it. I'm kind of terrified of the idea, because 24 hours was insane to me. Mm-hmm. I did it though, and then now it's like, oh, I have the option to do double that time. Yeah. Which is like, man, it's just like crazy, but we'll see. Anyways, let me look at.
Do you have an inspiration for running? Like a person where you're like, oh, that person keeps me going and running.
Like a runner, you mean?
Yeah, like Harvey Lewis, right? He's probably.
He is inspiring, but it's more like every time I see someone doing something that they're like skilled at or talented at, it's like, oh, imagine how much time went into that, or how much practice, or how much that person must like love that thing, that they did it so much that now they're so skilled at it. Mm-hmm. It's and so like that could be any physical thing, like gymnastics, weightlifting, swimming, even like volleyball, or like even playing like a card game, like how people like deal, like they're really good at it. Yeah. I guess it's mostly at casinos, but.
Would you say you're addicted to running? Because some people say that. Like,
addicted to running. I definitely think if I went more than 5 days without running, more than 4 days without running, I think I would feel pretty crappy. Yeah. Because I really like the routine of it, Mm-hmm. But it actually doesn't really have to be running. It could be just any form of exercise. It kind of feels like it fills that gap. I just happen to feel comfortable with running, and it works well for me. So.
Yeah, because some people are like, running's my addiction. And I'm like, that does like not make any sense to me. But it started to make sense because the more I like put it into my routine, I was like, oh yeah, I can see this being an addiction, I guess. It's kind of a weird addiction, but.
Yeah, well, it's not one that people will easily understand, but it can definitely be one, I think.
Yeah, like if like running is something that you have to do to like function, you know, like properly.
Yeah.
Then I would go as far as saying, yeah, that is, I guess, an addiction, which.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely dependent on running. I don't know if I would say that I was like addicted.
Yeah, and I also obviously I don't think like addiction is straight bad too, because you can probably be addicted to good things and bad things.
Yeah, I think just everything's good in moderation, and I do think like maybe, I don't know. It's really just like a personal decision, like how much you run, when you run, how you run, and everybody tells you something different. So there are better ways to do things. I don't know if there's one right way to do it. But anyways.
All right, you have a question?
Yeah, I keep on forgetting after reading it. I was just gonna say, like, what was it like? And we kind of already addressed this, but like, what was it like being infamous for like a month? Like, where like you're associated with this negative thing in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because, yeah, I guess I would just say the way I handled it was, I would mostly ignore it. And I don't think I got it as hard as some other people in our family. But, I was just trying to support everyone as much as I could, like everyone else, and would I would know for myself, like what I believe about running and what I believe about Rainier doing it, or a 6-year-old doing it. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's going to mess him up when he's older. And I was like, well, I was 8, which is not a huge difference between, being 6. And I think I turned out okay. What do you think? Did I turn out okay? I think I turned out okay, yeah.
Yeah, only time will tell, I guess. I don't know when is a good time.
Well, I mean, like, physically, I'm fine. Yeah. Like, fully capable of doing anything right now. And I got a lot to go still, but, like, I just feel so much more. Well, like, when you do something like that, and I can't even imagine doing it as young as Rainier, because that is, pretty young. It's just, like, the opportunities are, like, endless of, like, getting something done,
Yeah.
It's like, Rainier did not think he was able to do it, and then he does it, and he's like, oh, I can do, like, he thinks he's invincible or something.
Yeah.
Like, I can do anything, pretty much.
And, like, even for me, like, even though we had Fulia when she was 6 run it, I didn't know if Rainier was going to be able to do it because he was a completely different person. He is a completely different person than Fulia. He has a different personality. His body is different. He's like...
And we train different, we run different now. And
yeah.
Everyone else changed. And he's like, from his perspective, I guess everyone was, older than him. And Fulia, everyone was older than her too, but we were closer in age to Fulia. Like, everyone has at least a 5-year gap from Rainier. When Fulia was running it, I don't know, she had memory, who was like, could like, at least more relate to her.
Yeah.
In doing it when she was younger. But yeah, it's different. I'm not actually fully, I don't really know exactly why, like, all the reasons why it was very different from Fulia running it and why this, like, Rainier running it, maybe because he looked younger or something, but why it was so much more of a big deal than when Fulia was running it.
I know, yeah.
So.
It's just, well, it really shows you how the media works. Like, it's just, like, something, like, the second something, like,
it's like a formula.
It just, like, yanks it off the bank and...
it'll go viral and then...
You don't really, there's no, like... oh, if you do this, it's going to make you famous, obviously, unless it's like, something really bad that people have no choice but to, like, acknowledge. Or something really good. But, like, there's so many people out there that it's, like, getting harder and harder to become well-known for anything.
Next question. Did you run with Rainier at all in the marathon?
Yeah.
like holding his hand and stuff and like
Yeah.
coaching him.
Not as much as I would have liked. I think I was kind of distracted. But
Yeah. Someone asked me a question. They were like, "Are you in a weird way like jealous or anything?"
Of Rainier? Or
Yeah.
of the like effect of like him running.
No, well, because when I was younger, I was like the spotlight, you know, and people were like, "Oh, good job, blah blah blah," and they were like asking in that sense, but I didn't get any of that. I was just like, no, I was just like do whatever I can to like encourage Rainier and like keep him going, putting one foot in front of the other.
And it's like when you're that little, you need that. When you're older, it's like because we've done so many marathons, we already know that we can do it, so we don't, even though like we appreciate it, and at some parts like maybe we do need it, it's like nowhere near to the amount that someone who can't fathom what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or not even, oh, that was a bad word. Remember an Olympic runner commented on
Oh yeah, she had a lot of things to say about it.
She said a 6-year-old cannot fathom a marathon and something. I'm like kind of butchering what she said, but something about like he shouldn't be running. And now I'm like, oh, fathom.
But
I mean, you can't fathom anything until you do it. Like you might say, like
not exactly, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the reason why I think it's so powerful that he did do it. Because
now he knows what it's like.
Yeah, and like he can do, like, I think the more you have that confidence, especially when you're younger, the more freedom you'll have in the future to actually, do something that you might like fail doing, or do something actually impactful, or that has the like possibility to be impactful.
Yeah, I ran with Rainier a little bit, probably for like not that long, but I tried to stay with him just with encouragement and stuff. But I think these last couple marathons, I was just not this last one, but probably the one before that, maybe even the one before that. I was just like, oh yeah, I know I can do this because I've done it so many times before.
Yeah.
And there's like no question of risk. Or the one crazy thing was when we ran it during the Appalachian Trail. That was like, I was like, dude, can I finish this? I don't even know because, apparently we did not know this, but apparently you use complete different muscles to run than you do to walk. So our legs were like destroyed, like they were super sore, but our breathing metabolism was,
our endurance was very good.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
It was actually our quickest time ever as a family that we ran when we were doing the Appalachian Trail. But I mean, we had some idea that it's obvious that you like do something different when like running versus walking, but I think we didn't think that the difference was going to be that.
Yeah, it's like running, you use more of your quads, and I think walking, you use more of your calves, I think, just because you like focus more on your form when you walk, and when you run, you just like run. You like think less about that, I guess, but... What time is it? Should we what?
I don't know. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, I got like 3 more.
Okay.
What was your opinion on the Marathon Boy video? Like, was it exactly, did it like come out exactly how you wanted it to, or like was there some stuff like behind the scenes where you're like, oh, we didn't show that, or?
It was actually like more the opposite, where I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that they were filming then, or like I forgot that happened.
Yeah. I think that video did so much better than I thought it would be at capturing the whole experience on like how something like crazy like this could happen. Like from Andy doing it to let alone, a 6-year-old running it to like a family doing this together. And that video was like really, really good too. Like we made a lot of marathon videos. We probably made like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
And that one was by far the best one yet.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That means you're going somewhere as long as
it's
not
we're
worse
moving
than
forward.
The last. Yeah. I really liked it. I thought one of my favorite parts was like my dad included this segment where he asked all these people who had been inspired by us to film themselves and like share like how they had been inspired and like their name and, you know, like their age. And there was just this like all these clips from people that like some of them I knew, some of them I didn't know. Actually, quite most of them I didn't know. And it was like I felt like I was watching a real movie when I was watching all these people. Like the way he edited it was like, "Hi, my name is blank," and then it was like, "Hi, I'm blah blah," and it was like perfectly edited together. And I don't know, I really loved that part because it
just like showing a bunch of people we didn't even know show their support was just so like,
well, it showed how much like bigger, how many like ripples like something as small as running can make.
Yeah, right.
Because it didn't really feel like a big deal at the time when we were preparing for this marathon.
It felt like bigger than us. Yeah, at that point.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, we are affecting like a lot of people here, and just like seeing how many like lives it impacted, and how many people were inspired to run was just like, wow, that is why we did it, like that.
Yeah, I really loved seeing that, so that was really cool.
Yeah. So what is your plan for running in the future? Obviously, like we already talked about it a little bit, but you have some races planned. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's just going to be something that you like do daily a little bit, or just here and there?
Weekly. I don't run every day, but I definitely like running enough, and it's been a part of my routine for like a while, so I can't really imagine being without it. I think as far as like races go, I like to like have 3 or 4 races a year just to like give myself some sort of goal to shoot for and something to look forward to, and like a fun event that, because if I think about it, like I spend a ton of energy running, then like that progress, I like to go somewhere, even if it's just, you know, a race that nobody shows up to, or you know, it doesn't have to be, I don't feel like I have to constantly be upping my game, although there is some of that too. Like I want to see what I can do and like keep on pushing myself. It's more just like this is a part of my life that I really like, and it's almost like honoring that by like planning and signing up for these races instead of just taking the ability to run or my love of running for granted, because I think well, if there's one thing that I learned, things change really fast.
With running? With
everything, with just like life. Like, I mean, think about it. We were on the news, and then a couple weeks later, nobody, like the news was like...
Yeah, there was a point where I was like, is this ever going to die down? And then when it did, I was like, oh, back to life, like basically just back to normal again.
And nobody remembers.
Yeah.
And...
You know what was crazy? It was one time... I was having sushi with some friends, and the people next to us at the restaurant were like, they were in a bunch of like 30-year-old or like middle-aged dudes that were in nursing clothes. So they were like doctors or something. But there was like 4 of them.
Scrubs.
What?
I think they're called scrubs.
Scrubs? They're called scrubs?
I don't know. I think so.
The outfits are called scrubs, or the people?
I think so. The outfits.
Oh, the outfits. She's got to get a new name for that. But they were talking about...
I think so.
Yeah. Don't quote us on that. But they were talking about the marathon and everything, and it was crazy because like they were talking about Rainier, and then the marathon. They're like, yeah, this family like ran a marathon apparently. Like I don't know what that does, but like a kid ran it. He was 6 years old, and I was sitting right next to them. I was just like listening to them. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I actually said something to them. I don't think they knew me at all. I don't think they knew that I ran it too. Like they probably didn't recognize me or anything. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they saw the video or probably not. They probably just saw it on the news, so they wouldn't know what I looked like. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, did you hear about that kid who ran that race? Pretty crazy, huh? And they're like, yeah, we're just talking about that, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And I just continued on my day. It was just pretty funny because like, I don't think that's ever happened to me in a situation where like someone is just talking about something that, you know, that I was involved with, and then I just like basically talking to them as if I was not associated with a marathon at all. So
Yeah.
that perspective was pretty funny.
That's a really funny story.
Yeah. I think that's all of my questions. Do you have any more?
Not that we haven't really already talked about.
Okay. Yeah, that was, I think this is going on for like 40 minutes, but that was the conversation on some insight on the marathon stuff. I think.
Marathon boy.
Yeah.
After Effects.
I don't know if we will be running it next year. I think the like race director said we couldn't because of how.
Yeah, we'll see. People have like been like, oh, why don't you start your own race?
I mean, I'm 18 now, so I can run it legally. It's just so crazy because like this whole time it says in the rules, you have to be 18 to register. And this whole time I've like basically gotten away with running it, not being 18. And yeah, anyone can run a marathon. Yeah, you can just like go outside and run 26.2 miles and it'll take a couple hours, but you might want someone to like bring you snacks and water and stuff. The most I've run that wasn't a marathon or like a race was probably about half. I think I ran half a marathon with my dad one time when I was little. I was like crazy because I just had to like self-motivate myself. And the Cincinnati Marathon is a lot different than other marathons because I've run a Olympia Marathon in Washington one time. And there was probably like a total of like just like a couple hundred people cheering you on. And in this marathon, what? Like probably
thousands.
Yeah, thousands, 5,000 probably, something.
I mean, they have people every mile.
Yeah, well, just like all along, at least the first part, all along the race on the sides of the roads, just people like cheering you on, saying, you got this.
Yeah.
Passing out
really
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, just saying whatever is on their mind to get you to keep going, basically. Just like super encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
The first, I mean, that, I've been like kind of taking that for granted on this marathon because like I've been like kind of used to it lately. The first time I ran it, I was like, whoa, all these people are cheering me on? What? It was crazy. And some people like make tunnels.
You get like embarrassed. You're like, but then you're like excited too. You're like, all I'm doing is just moving my legs.
It was like a really surreal feeling. Just like, I don't even know why they're standing out there cheering me on, but it's just so cool because like they're like everywhere. A bunch of people just cheering you on. So I think, by far the Cincinnati Marathon is probably my favorite. There was this one dude who ran, I think 1,000, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 marathons, and he was like, the Cincinnati one is the best one in my opinion because of the people in the community and everything. And it was like so cool to hear that because I was like, wow, that is like, where I live. So
I take it for granted. All right, well.
Thank you guys for tuning in on
for
episode 2 of
listening and or watching.
Yeah, listening or watching. We will see you guys next week on the Fence podcast. It's got a nice ring to it.
On the Fence.
Yeah, we're still working on the profile picture. Should be done right now, but it's gonna look dope. Everything's coming together. I don't know what we're gonna be talking about next week, but it's gonna be a surprise. Maybe we'll have a guest next week. We'll see. But yeah, with that, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys
next time.
See you guys next time. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.
Better than I love you.